We have a huge story occurring this morning in Charleston, South Carolina, but we have every hour for the past several days, Sarah. The EU in Greece has finally submitted a deal that European officials say they can work with. In a major concession from Greece, it calls for more harsh austerity measures in exchange for a €53.5 billion bailout package. So what occurred between now and Sunday?
This is it. This is a key weekend for Greece, and hopefully we'll know by the end of the weekend whether Greece is doing enough to get a bailout, a financial lifeline from its creditors, namely the Europeans and the Germans, who pay the most of the bill, to stay in the euro. There's a big meeting on Sunday between all of the European leaders, and if the finance ministers on Saturday sign off on this latest Greek debt proposal, then the leaders will take it up. They'll see whether they approve, and then they'll see whether they can sign off on this bailout. The problem has been Greece has not been willing to make enough cuts to the pension system, raise enough taxes. It's budget cuts in return for cash from the Europeans, and that's really what's been the problem and what's been argued about for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it does look like the Greeks have blinked here and have finally brought a proposal that could work.
Well, isn't there a lot of political risk here because they ran against austerity, and now in effect they're doing what they said they were opposed to?
It's even worse than that, because they ran on austerity, and then they called this referendum, a surprise referendum for the Greek people to vote on this creditor's proposal. The people voted no, and now they're bringing back to the table essentially what the Greek people voted no on. So they're blinking, and I think the reason why is because Alexis Tsipras, the prime minister, the populist, radical left prime minister who won against austerity, does not want to be responsible for Greece leaving the euro. And the Europeans have said, we have plan B. We have a plan in place if you leave the euro. So he doesn't want to have to oversee that, because that would be devastating for the Greek economy and the Greek people.
If this deal works, does it solve the problem, or are they going to have to be coming back for more in the next couple weeks or months?
It solves the problem for a few years if this deal works, because it does give Greece enough money to pay back its debt, big debt payment in June, and it should cover for the next few years. But that's a big if. For instance, what we have seen before in this entire Greek drama over the past few years is it's been enough to get a little bit of a lifeline, but let's come back to the negotiating table in a few months. So obviously that could still happen, but I think the Europeans are worn out at this point by the politics and the back and forth, and they want to look at something that'll cover Greece a few years.
So when do we find out, Saturday or Sunday?
So Saturday we'll find out whether the finance ministers give the okay, and then Sunday we'll find out whether the leaders give the okay, and hopefully we'll come in Monday morning with some sort of resolution. But that's a big if. I mean, we haven't heard from the Germans yet on this proposal. The French are always optimistic. They're hoping that Greece can stay in the euro. But a lot is going to depend. And look, German Chancellor Angela Merkel also has to go back to her constituents, which are giving her a hard time about being too lenient with Greece.
All right.